So we've looked at Trojan horses as malware. Now how about viruses and worms? Let's talk about virus and worm concepts. So what is a virus? I hope at this point you know what it is. It's a self-replicating program. It produces its own copy. It attaches itself to another program, the computer boot sector, or a document. They are usually transmitted through file downloads or infected removable media, flash drives, email attachments. That's the usual way. The characteristics: they will infect other programs, other operating systems, other files. They alter the data. They can transform themselves. They corrupt files and programs. They replicate and self-replicate. They encrypt and self-replicate. And if we look here, we can actually see a close-up of some virus stuff right here. And so we can just see this is part of it right here. So the life of a virus. You use some kind of construction kit or programming code to design and create the virus. You find a way to get the virus to replicate itself for whatever amount of time you want. You launch the virus and let it out into the wild. The virus is hopefully going to be detected by the antivirus software on the computer that it is infecting or attempting to infect. Now, hopefully your antivirus software will be continuously updated with the latest virus signatures and eliminate the threats of viruses so that we basically keep these machines up to date. Now, let's talk about this really. Every computer virus is man-made, period, end of sentence. None of them are created by nature. None of them are created by God, okay? They are all created by people, humans. And they're done for all the same reasons that people hack. The thing about viruses is it's a constant game. People are constantly putting out viruses for whatever reason. Bragging rights, theft of data, to create bot armies, whatever. And the antivirus companies are constantly trying to capture these out of the wild, reverse engineer them, and create antivirus signatures. It is true that there have been unscrupulous companies who have actually released viruses specifically so they could sell you an antivirus. What can we say? The fact that we have computers that connect and interact is the fact that we're going to have these kinds of infections. So what can we say about that? The workings of the virus. It will have an infection phase where it replicates itself and attaches itself to something. It doesn't have to be an executable, but that's very common. And then the attack phase. So the viruses are programmed to trigger depending upon some kind of event and to activate and corrupt the system somehow. They might infect every time they are run, in other words, reinfect. They might only run under predefined conditions, such as specific days, dates, times, events. Or they might, or every time somebody opens a file or plays a game or runs something. What typically happens with antivirus is you'll have an antivirus program that on a schedule will basically scan your machine. Now, to save time and trouble, they won't necessarily deeply scan every single file. What they'll do is they'll scan processes that are trying to do something. So if the virus is sitting dead, dormant, doing nothing, unless you do a thorough scan, it might not be detected. But it will be detected when it tries to open a file, copy a file, get loaded in memory, or that kind of thing, when it is active. That's typically how antivirus programs work. So you can have hacking tools that are considered viruses. They're not really, but they show up as malware that can be sitting on a drive doing nothing and not touched until you try to actually launch one. Then the antivirus goes, oh, there it is, and it cleans it out. And then you go, well, but wait a minute, I was using that. So realize that viruses are sometimes only detected when they are active or in transit or being copied or something like that. So why do people create viruses? Well, a lot of it is just because they can. or we're trying to cause damage to somebody or some organization. We're trying to gain some kind of financial or something benefit. It could just be a research project. I mean, actually, the very first computer virus was accidental. It was not malicious at all. It was the offshoot of, or it was the result of experiments in artificial intelligence, a program that could teach itself. And it accidentally got released into the wild. So that was the very first virus, if you will. So some people make viruses to play tricks or to cause vandalism or for more sinister like cyber terrorism. Or maybe they're trying to distribute ideological messages, political or religious, or they're doing it to try to attack political or religious organizations or entities or nation states. How do you know that you have been attacked by a virus or you're being attacked? The most common thing is abnormal activities. And usually it's you slow way down. Processes take more time. Your computer becomes unresponsive. Suddenly labels start changing. You can't boot. Normal things are just take a lot longer. Usually slowing down is the most common indicator. You can have other kinds of glitches that are caused from viruses. You can have like too many virus alerts. Your computer can freeze. Files and folders will be missing. Hard drive access is increased, or your browser will freeze frequently. So these are also glitches. How does this happen? Mostly users are, well, first, they're not keeping their antivirus up to date, and they download or run things that are untrusted. And untrusted, maybe they trust it, but they shouldn't. They'll open infected email attachments, they'll install pirated applications, or they'll install stuff that does not come from a legitimate vendor. They don't keep their operating system up to date with patched and hot fixes. They don't install new versions, more secure versions of applications and plugins when they're supposed to. They don't keep their antivirus applications up to date. We all know that no one antivirus program is going to catch everything. But here's the problem of antivirus. An antivirus program needs full control, which means you cannot have two on the same machine. They will fight for control, and the net result is a machine that performs very poorly, extremely slow. I mean, where it's not usable slow. So even if somebody installs an antivirus just as a trial copy, okay, just a trial copy, or they buy a machine and it has a trial copy on, even if they don't pay for it, even if they never get the subscription, it's still there. So what often happens is people will go and download another trial copy. And you think, well, since I'm not paying for it, it's disabled. No, that's not true. It's running. It's just not giving you any benefit, but it still maintains control. So if you're going to install another AV, you've got to make sure the old one is off, whether you're using it or not, that it's uninstalled. So that's some information about virus and worm concepts.